Hi card makers, I'm Tricia at Club Scrap with the Turquoise card making kit tutorial. We're going to have a good time assembling a dozen cards together. I've got my instructions handy, my entire collection including these beautiful ribbons and some gems. We've got stickers and bezels and tags and yes, lots of fun goodies to put together, but we'll set those aside for now. And here's our paper collection. You'll also want to make sure you have a nice 12-inch guillotine style trimmer. This one is by Fiskars and you can get it at our website. And then I also have an accordion pocket file to help me stay organized while I'm trimming and preparing all of the papers for my cards. Later on we'll use a score pal as well. So let's go ahead and get started by putting our paper in the order that we'll be trimming it. That kind of sets us up for success. The first sheet from the stack you'll want to find is a red plain, followed by a light turquoise. So there are two different colors of turquoise in here. We've got this light and the dark, and then we also have a blue turquoise as well. So grab the light turquoise and then a dark turquoise paper. Next we'll be trimming one of the prints. I absolutely adore this big mosaic. It's so beautiful. And then I'm putting that face down on the stack. Next you'll need a white plain, so just make sure it's plain on both sides, followed by the blue plain, one additional print, the gold, and then we'll tackle our cut aparts. So the first one we'll use is the one that says the world needs who you were meant to be in the corner, and then the other one that has a lot of the in this slightly less opaque background. And I'm putting all that face down, and then I'll flip the whole works over. This way I know exactly where I'm starting and I have all the sheets in the correct order. So according to our trimming diagram, our first two papers can be cut at the same time or one at a time. And since we're just getting started here, I'll cut them one at a time. And we'll begin by confirming our grain direction of the paper. So to do that, I just hold it by the edge and watch how it behaves. Does it dip? Is it flexible, or is it tight? And I'll compare this direction. This way it feels a lot more stiff. This direction is more pliable, and I want to make sure that it dips easily from top to bottom. Okay, so let's trim at 10 3/4 and 7. Rotate and cut at 10 and 5. You've just made two 5x7 card bases. We're going to set those aside to be scored. Now I have one more piece. This is narrow, currently 2x7. Let's cut that horizontally at 5.5. And this piece will belong with card set A, so I'll put that in my first pocket, and this is a scrap. Now I have this longer strip. We'll cut that horizontally at 10 and 5. Both of these pieces will be used with card set A. And we have another small scrap. Then we have the long strip. Let's trim that horizontally at 11.5 and 5 3/4. These are used in card set C. Once again, there's a tiny little scrap. It already fell on the floor, no big deal. Okay, let's repeat that now with the light turquoise. So I'm gonna hold that paper by the edge. It's stiff. This is nice and curvy. We want it curving easily top to bottom. Cut at 10 3/4 and 7. Rotate and cut at 10 and 5. Here are your two card bases that need to be scored, so we set those aside, and then we'll trim this other 2x7 horizontally at 5.5, and that goes in pocket A. We'll set aside our scrap and pick up the 3 3/4 by 12. We'll cut horizontally at 10 and 5. These two rectangles go in pocket A with the red, and we have another scrap. Finally, this long strip, 11.5 and 5 3/4. Pocket C. This next piece, the dark turquoise, we're on to instruction document number 2, and we can see the arrow pointing left to right. So I'll check my dipping direction. It's dipping easily in this way. We'll cut at 10 3/4 again, and 8.5, rotate and cut at 11 and 5.5. Stack the 2 pieces that will be scored, set those aside. This is a scrap, and then we're going to make a whole bunch of little tiny strips, okay? So bear with me. This is the 2 1/4 by 12. We'll cut horizontally at 10 3/4, 9 1/2, 8 1/4, 7, 5 3/4, 4 1/2, 3 1/4, and 2. Believe it or not, this 2-inch rectangle is a scrap, and all the rest of these little pieces that you made will be used in card set C. This long strip is a scrap. Here's another little guy from the previous. Ooh, now I get to cut this beautiful print. So I'll check for grain direction. This time I want it dipping easily from top to bottom again. And we'll cut a tiny little scrap, so that's 11 3/4. Then 9 1/2 and 6 1/4. We'll rotate this piece and cut horizontally at 9. That gives us a card base. So set this large piece aside to be scored, and this piece untrimmed goes in pocket B. Now let's make some rectangles. So we'll cut this 3 1/4 by 12 at 11 1/4, 9, 6 3/4, 4 1/2, and 2 1/4. Okay, so that gives us a whole bunch of rectangles that should be the same size in pocket C and a small scrap. Pick up the next strip. This is 2 1/4 by 12. We'll cut it 9 3/4, 6 1/2, and 3 1/4. That gives us more rectangles the same size as previous, and a scrap that's kind of a square shape. It's an actual square. These go in pocket C with the others. Then I'll pick up the white plane, make sure that it dips easily top to bottom. We'll cut at 10 and 6 1/4. Rotate and cut at 9. This is a card base, and this strip goes in pocket B. Take the next white strip. This is 3 3/4 by 12. We'll cut at 9, 6 3/4, 4 1/2, 2 1/4. Okay, so you're going to have several rectangles that are the same size. That goes in pocket C, and this larger rectangle is actually a scrap along with the long strip of white. The next 2 pieces can be cut at the same time. They're cut the same way. If you don't feel comfortable with that, no worries. Just do them and rewind and do them twice in a row, or consult your instructions. So this blue, dipping easily top to bottom, and our print, dipping easily top to bottom. I'll stack those. Oh, this is from a long time ago. That's a scrap. Okay, so 11 3/4. We're going to make more of those little tiny strips. That's also going to be a scrap. And 6 1/4. Okay, rotate, and we will cut at 9. Now we've done this a few times. So this will become a card, and these 2 pieces will go in pocket B. Then take the next pieces, 5 1/2 by 11. We'll cut horizontally at 8 1/2. Place this in the pile to be scored, and then you have a rectangle that will cut horizontally at 4 3/4. Pocket A, and some scraps here. Get rid of those. Finally, we're at the gold. This one, none of the pieces that we're going to trim are folded. Therefore, it does not matter which way this goes in the trimmer as far as grain direction. Let's cut at 10 1/2. 10 1/2. 9, 6 1/4, 3 1/2. Rotate the 3 1/2. We'll cut at 9 1/2 and 4 3/4. these 2 rectangles, pocket A. This is a scrap. Now, the next 2 strips should be the same size. We'll cut them horizontally at 6. And all of that goes in pocket B. The next 2 strips should also be the same size, only smaller. We'll cut that horizontally at 6. And all of these 4 pieces will be placed in pocket C. Next, we need to trim those cut aparts. So let's take this piece that has the little circles and put those in the trimmer so that they're on the right. And I'm watching for these little guide marks that you'll find on the edges of the print to ensure that we're cutting where we need to. And that first slice is going to be at around 10 3/4. I always default to the mark versus the measurement. And then moving on down, we'll cut at 9 3/4. I'm guessing 8 3/4. Yes, 8 3/4. And then 6 1/2. 4 1/4. Let's rotate this piece, and we're going to cut these into even pieces. So 9, 6, and 3. All of these panels will be placed in pocket A. Next, we have 2 strips that are pretty much the same, and they get trimmed the same, horizontally at 11 and 5 1/2. 11 and 5 1/2. That gives me 4 pieces the same size that will go in pocket B. These pieces are scraps, so you can use them if you wish or not. The next 2 pieces will be trimmed horizontally at 11 and 5 1/2. All 4 can be filed in pocket C. And now we have these strips. So what I'm going to do here is a little bit of prep work right now at this point. I'm going to remove the white from this strip here. So to do that, I usually bring whatever when I'm trimming a small item, I usually don't have it way up here on my trimmer base. I put it more toward the middle so I can easily see the blade and where that white edge is. I'll remove that. Then I'll just rotate it. And because I have that clear stabilizing bar, I can do this easily. Now, if you look carefully at this piece, there is a small indicator of a division between the 4 pieces of artwork that I want to create. So I'm going to line that up with the edge of my blade and separate this into 4 individual pieces. Finally, if you would like, and this is completely optional, if you happen to have a corner rounder punch, I've got 2 sides here, the 1/4 and the 1/2. I'm going to use the 1/4-inch side. Make sure it's open. A lot of people don't really know how to use these bad boys. And then you can round the corners of each of these pieces to be used later to embellish a tag that we've included in your kit. All 4 of these prepared rectangles can be placed in pocket B. We also have a series of circles that are designed to fit inside the brass medallions that we have in your kit, and this is a 7/8 inch size, so this won't work with a 1-inch circle punch, but it works just fine with scissors. So if you take scissors and you just carefully cut around the circle, one of the things that you can do is take an ink pad, like maybe an earth or black, and you can add a little ink to the edges of this to hide any imperfections in your scissoring of a circle, because it is hard to cut a circle with scissors. But if you just glue this inside the mount, I mean, it looks great just like this. So go ahead and cut these out, and then you can place the circles in pocket A. Now let's trim this other sheet of cut aparts. After all of that, we'll place this in the trimmer with the word thinking of you on the right. Our first cut is at around 10, and then 8, and 4, I'm guessing. Yes, it is 4. Rotate, we'll cut at 10.5 and 5.25. Just hang on to those for a second, those larger pieces. And again, 10.5, 5.25. So you've just made 4 larger panels. These all go in card set A. There's a lot in that pocket. And then the Go For It and May Time Help You Heal, both of those pocket B. And now I have a thank you strip. So we'll cut this one horizontally at 8.5 and 5. 5-inch piece, pocket B. And the 2 smaller pieces, pocket C. Same with the next one. So we'll cut at 8.5 and 5. Large piece, pocket B. The remaining 2 pieces, pocket C. Whew. I think that's all the trimming. Good job. If you're new to this, hang in there. You'll speed up over time, and if you've been around for a while, congratulations. That was some really efficient paper trimming. Let's set that trimmer aside and grab our score pal. Now, in my printed instructions, all of the scoring is listed individually for each piece that's trimmed, but just for ease, I've sorted my papers out by size. So we'll start with the smallest pile, and this should be a 5x7, and I like to score, if I can, 2 at a time. So I'll place this vertically into my score pal and score it 2.5, and you can place that in pocket C. Same with the next pair of red, score vertically at 2.5, and then I'll go pocket C. Then I'll take 2 of the medium-sized card base. This should be 5.5 by 8.5. And we'll score horizontally at 4.25. Pocket A. Grab my next pair. These are both teal at 4.25. Pocket A. Finally, we should have 4 card bases that are 9 by 6.25. We'll score horizontally at 4.5. I'm doing this 2 at a time. If you are not comfortable with that, no worries. Just do them 1 at a time at 4.5. All 4 of these can be placed in pocket B. And now we're ready to make some cards. Okay, let's take everything out of pocket A. I did not yet finish trimming my circles, but I do have one to make a card that we're going to make together. So that's what matters at this point. And I usually like to deal everything out. Maybe we'll begin with the largest card bases, and then I will also turn to page 3 in my instructions, and then I can recreate the cards as we see them. So the base of our first card is going to be this mosaic print, and then a dark teal, and then this beautiful blue turquoise, followed by another dark teal. Then I'll take the 4 largest panels and distribute those. So we've got dark turquoise, light turquoise, red, and red. Then the next size up for panels, we'll try gold, the mosaic, oh, it's so beautiful, and then this blue turquoise. Oh my goodness, I just love this so much. Then we'll have our horizontal, I bow to your oldness. Every moment has the potential to be amazing, light, and meant to be. I realized I had forgotten to cut these 2 by 5.5 strips in half vertically. I had it kind of written into my instructions, but I forgot to fix the diagram, and I was following that. So I'm just going to grab my trimmer. So if you're scrapping with me and you haven't done this yet, my apologies for the inconvenience. I'm just going to go ahead and cut these vertically at 1 inch. Again, having that clear bar to hang on to for these smaller pieces is really handy. I'll distribute a red strip to these 2 and then a blue strip to these 2 cards. Okay, then it's really kind of nice because we had enough space left on our cut-aparts to include some nice large insertions. So we've got our 2 horizontals, happy birthday, and make this one yours, and then congrats and happy birthday there. And finally, I'm just going to add our circle each one of these. stack them up and set those aside for now, and we'll make this one pretty simple card together. I'll start by putting some adhesive on the inside of this bronze filigree bezel. And then I'll add the trimmed circle to that. I just love it when a project comes together. All the planning that goes into these card kits, and when everything comes and you make your final prototype, it's pretty fun. Here is the folded card base. Now it's just an easy thing to just simply pay attention to the order of assembly. So I'll take the gold panel and I'll nest the gold onto the light teal, and then I'll nest that onto the card base. Now at this point I'm going to take this red strip and I will kind of feel out a length of this beautiful ribbon. Check the grain direction of the ribbon also. There's going to be one way where it wants to go and one way it won't want to go. So I'm trying to also work with the grain when it comes to ribbon as well. I'll take some tape and wrap the ribbon tails around to the back once I have it centered. Then add some adhesive to the back of the strip, and we'll position this horizontally along near the bottom edge of the card. If you wanted to use a ruler for this part to make sure it's level, you could always do that, because I know my weaknesses. Okay, I will add I bow to your oldness, which I think is hysterical. Oh, pretty. I shouldn't laugh because I'm going to be getting cards like this now, so. All right, then we'll open the card and add that large happy birthday to the inside, which is kind of nice because it's just a white backing to this, so that adds a lot. Lastly, we can add our element. So with the bookbinding glue, I'm just going to grab some of the more raised areas of this on the back side. And we've got a nice little spot. It can go right in here. Now what I would recommend at this point is to put something heavy onto this so that it makes really good contact at all points, and this isn't going to go anywhere once that glue dries. All of the cards are assembled in the same way. The only difference is the way I used ribbon on the vertical cards. So let's review that quickly. I've got the original I Bow to Your Oldness, and then this one is same exact assembly with the ribbon here. This one I waited to add ribbon, and I just added it to the cut apart panel with the sentiment on it, and that's that beautiful Petersham ribbon, and that's again a really good reason to put something heavy on there. So the adhesive is making contact at all points for the medallion. Same thing here. I did add the strip between one panel and the other, and then I also wrapped around the bottom of this with the red taffeta ribbon, large greeting inside. What a gorgeous set of cards. Moving on to card set B, I've taken everything out of the pocket, and here are my card bases. So I'll distribute those, the mosaic print first, a white plain, another print, and then the blue turquoise, the actual blue. Oh, it's so pretty. And then we're going to distribute some panels. So I have a larger set of panels that match the width of the card. So I'll start with the blue, and then add some color here with the mosaic, then white, and another mosaic print here. Hope you can see that okay. All right, then each one of these gets one of these gorgeous coverweight metallic gold pieces. And then we'll have Let Your Dreams. Here's our sympathy, which I've already used my sympathy version of this. How rare and beautiful you are, and kind people. For the inside, we'll go with Go For It, May Time Help You Heal, Thinking of You, and Thank You. These are a nice, simple assembly, nothing complicated here. I'll set aside the first or the final three, and we'll assemble the first one together. So nice and easy. First, we'll make a bow from this beautiful ribbon, and if you haven't already seen me do this, I'll show you how I make a nice little bow. So make 2 loops, cross. Now this loop that's in the front wraps around the back and goes through the hole or the opening, and then you just grab that and you pull. Now this ribbon has a lot of what I would call body to it. So this gives you some ability to shape, create a pretty small bow actually. So you just keep pulling until you're happy with the size of each loop. Make sure they're nice and even. And I always keep a small fabric scissors handy just exclusively for ribbon. I try not to cut paper with it, just so it remains nice and sharp for cutting fabric or ribbon. Okay, so I've got this lovely. Now I'm going to take my blue panel. I'll put some adhesive on that. And maybe I'll fold my card base in half so I kind of know where I'm going. And I'm going to attach this more to the right edge of this A6 size card. And then I'll nest the gold. Followed by the sentiment. There's a larger reveal here. I really wanted to be able to see that gorgeous gold paper. The go for it goes in the middle of the card, so it's not too early to add that right away. So we don't forget, because I tend to do that. And now is the time to grab one of those metallic turquoise tags. And I'll take a piece that we prepared earlier with the rounded corners, and again, those rounded corners are optional. I just wanted to mimic a little bit what was happening with the corners of this particular tag. And then I'm going to add the tag to my card with foam adhesive circles, and I always just use a half of a circle on the edges. Line up the straight edge with the edge of my item, and I will attach this here. Now for this particular card, I used the bow to accent the tag. On others, I used some folded ribbon. I happen to have a roll of glue lines handy, and that's what I've been finding just really works nice for attaching these bows. You could use bookbinding glue, but I just like the ability to have it immediately placed and secure. I can control even where the bow tails go if I want by putting some of the glue line on the tail. And here we go. A pretty little bow on this card. So here's the original that we made together. Boy, that's a pretty good match right there. And then the other vertical card, since the sentiment is down here, I moved the tag up and I folded a piece of this beautiful gold ribbon in half, about a 2-inch length of it. And then I pierced a hole through it so I could prepare the way for a gold mini brad. After doing that once, I decided to switch to a stapler. I just stapled the ribbon, folded a ribbon right to the top of the tag for this card, and the same for the final one. This lovely thank you card. So that, my friends, is set B. For set C, I have a cutting mat handy along with a ruler and a craft knife. You could also do these steps with a ruler, pencil, and scissors, so if you're not comfortable with a craft knife, no worries. Let's begin by doing the deal and just distribute everything to the cards as it will be used. So we've got a teal and a red and a teal and a red. So those are our card bases for the never-ending card. Now each one will get one white panel. Each one gets 2 of the mosaic printed panels, and each one gets 2 of the smaller teal panels. I love it. Now each one can have a gold strip, and if it was a teal card base, give it a red panel, and vice versa, it gets a teal or a blue. Let's see, teal, red and teal. Okay. Then we'll distribute our sentiments. So we'll start out with Mom Flew, and then a happy birthday, how rare and beautiful, and I can't believe how old people at my age are. Then we'll add a get well soon, you don't look a day over, your thoughtfulness, and happy birthday. So each one of these has all the supplies it needs, paper-wise anyway, and I will walk you through the Mom Flew card because we all know what Mom Flu is all about. It's not as serious as the regular kind of flu. Okay, so what we need to do is follow along with a little diagram that I made for you in the instructions. This is page 5, and it shows the card base positioned horizontally, and there are 2 cuts that go from the top edge of the card to the score line, 1 cut that goes from the score line to the bottom edge of the card. These 2 cuts are 1.5 inches from the outside edge. This one is in the center. So with my grid ruler, if I go in 1.5 inches from the edge of my card base, that's that solid line literally down the center of this ruler, I can make a cut that stops right at the score line, right there, okay? Now to remain comfortable, I'm just gonna rotate the card and make my other cut 1.5 inches from here, so that I'm still using my right hand to operate the craft knife in the most comfortable position possible. If I go back, here I have the 2 cuts, and that matches what happens in my diagram. Now I need a cut that runs through the middle here, and I'm just going to position my ruler. The 0 corner is here, and I can go right to 3.5 if the ruler is on its side. Make sure I'm level. Start at the score line, bring it toward me. Now if you would rather, use a pencil and make the marks, or maybe use a scoreboard, you can score at those dimensions and use scissors and cut, that's fine. I just feel that this is the most, professional looking. And now we had to do the twist, okay? This is my favorite part. So all I'm gonna do is bring this forward and bring this back. So just twist, that's it. And then I'll kind of make a crease at this particular spot. Then this piece ends up sitting up. Shall I repeat that? I mean, how easy is that? So here's my card, and I've got my center split right here. Twist by bringing this forward and this back. Boom. Make a crease in both directions for this pop-up. And there's my never-ending, or my impossible card. That's the impossible card. Okay, so now we have this whole mess of panels, and what's really cool is how all of this comes together. We can start, if we would like, by adding our small teal nesting panels and our medium-sized mosaic print panels. So check this out. Nests onto the larger area, both front and back, which to me, it just adds so much. And then our smaller. Okay. Next, if you wanted to, you could ink the edges of this a little bit to create contrast between this and the mat. It's just kind of the way the paper worked out for me this month. I'm also going to take my dedicated to ribbon scissors and cut a piece of ribbon. I think I will adhere this first. Fold this in half, put it on the left edge of my panel, and staple that in place. You could use a brad for this as well, no worries. Nice. Okay, then I will attach this to that pop-up area of the card. Lastly, add some adhesive to the Get Well Soon sentiment and nest it onto the red. Then red goes on to gold. At this point, you need to be fully aware of your adhesive placement because there is this open spot on the card base. So what I do is just put a little bit of adhesive on the right edge and maybe just slightly more on the left edge. Make sure the card is nice and straight when you center this within the front area. And then you have your that's what makes it really hard for people to understand how this card works. Once this piece is placed, you're like, oh, this is one sheet of paper? How'd you do that? And then you say, well, it's impossible. I'm not telling. Okay, now we have these really cute turquoise glittery oval shaped stickers. So take scissors and cut them in half. And they're really, really papery thin, so which is kind of cool. You can attach these to the left edge of the white area. Some of the sentiments force me to attach them in different ways, so just kind of check your instructions for placement of the oval. It's right on the edge here of the white area and centered top to bottom. Adds a nice little bit of flair. Then we have some red gems. And when Deb has to pack the red gems, I don't usually have her count them. I have her just get a scoop, and I just give her an ideal minimum number of gems. So the minimum here is 8, but some, you know, it's going to vary per pack depending on how the scoop worked out. She's really good about distributing everything well and beautifully in these bags. So if you have bonus red gems, just apply them liberally to your cards. And there is the finished Get Well card. Isn't that adorable? So here is the Mom Flu card. In this case, I did add some earth ink around the printed panels as well. But, you know, side by side, there's, you know, it just adds a little bit of depth to it, I guess. Maybe a little bit of aging. So if you want to take the time to do that, it does look really nice. Here's another happy birthday. How rare and beautiful you are. And I love that these are really nice and flat for mailing, but they display beautifully on the tabletop as well. And the final happy birthday. 12 beautiful cards, right? I hope you had fun with these. Now remember, this is the best part. If you have paper at home and are interested, you can replicate all of this trimming with paper from your stash to recreate a dozen more cards in a completely different color scheme, but all 12 cards will be in the same style. Have a great time with this, and if you like the Turquoise collection, be sure to join me for the page kit assembly tutorial. We're going to make 8 beautiful scrapbook pages that are fully embellished with items in this color scheme using this beautiful theme. We'll see you there.